This is Ralph Sass, and this is the second of the videos for Chapter 4 quiz. This here is question number 5. And once again, I'm going to go to the end and see what I'm looking for. All I'm looking for is the total costs that need to be accounted for. All I'm looking for is the total accounts that need to be accounted for. Well, I began the month with 17,000. And I added 178,000, so the total accounts that I have, the 17,000 I started with, plus the 178 that I added, is 195,000. That's what I need to account for, so the correct answer is C, 194. I don't need to worry about that 13,000 ending work in process inventory, because that's where I'm going to have to account for it. Where did these 195,000 in costs go? They're either in ending inventory or they've been transferred on to the next department. So that's all I needed to do for that one. It's just 195 grand. This is question number 6. This is the Lowell Company. And once again, I'm going to go to the end and find out what I'm looking for. I'm looking for cost per equivalent unit for conversion. Looking for cost per once again, they weren't very nice, and they didn't tell me how much were transferred out, but that's okay, because I can surely figure it out. I began the month with 11,000 units. I started 98,000, so I need to account for 109,000. Okay, and there's 21,000 still sitting there. So I take 109,000 minus the 21, and that tells me I need to account for transferred out was 88,000 units. Okay, now I have to worry about how many were left. How many were left were 21,000 at 81%. So I take the 21 grand at 80%, and that's 16,800. So the equivalent units is 104,800. Now I have to account for my costs. Costs were 46,915 at the beginning. We added 825,183. So the total of costs I need to account for are $872,098. I divide that by that 104,800, and I get a cost of 8.322, and sure enough, answer D, 8.322. The next questions, I'm going to do them in slightly different order, just because they kind of fit, and so there's 3 questions. They're all using the same data set. So this first question here, it says question 9 here, but it is really going to be equivalent units, and it's really question, I guess it is really question number 9. I guess this is question number 9 on the exam, and what we're looking for here is the equivalent units for materials. Okay, so we're looking for equivalent units for materials. So we have to start with how many were transferred out. The amount that was transferred out was 5,200. Then I have to have what was ending. Well, I had 500 left in ending inventory. For materials, they were 65% complete. So we have the 500 times the 0.65. That's 325. So that's 5525, and sure enough, answer C is the equivalent units for materials. The next question, it says here question 10, but it's really not question 10. It is really question number, cost per equivalent unit for conversion cost. This is question number 8. Okay, this is question number 8. And notice what I'm looking for here is the cost per equivalent unit for conversion costs. Okay, in the first department. So what I need to know is I need to know both equivalent units, and I need to know my costs. Well, there were 5,200 units transferred out, so that's good. Now I'm looking for conversion cost, not material. So instead of the 65%, I'm going to have that 25%. So I've got 500 times 0.25, and that's 125. So my equivalent units is 5,325. That's my equivalent units. Now I need my dollars, and so I'm looking for my conversion costs. My conversion costs that were added were 171,300. My conversion costs that I began with was 1,400. So that's 172,700 divided by 5325, 5,325, and we will get a cost of 32.43. And finally, the next question is using the same data set, unfortunately. It's using the same data set, and the data set's in the prior slide, so you're just going to have to bear with me here. And here we're looking for the cost of the ending work in process inventory. We're looking for the costs for the ending work in process inventory. I already figured out, part of the reason why I like this is I already figured out that my materials, my equivalent units for materials, already figured that out, and that was 5,525. I already figured it out for conversion, and that was 5,325. Where did I get those two answers? From the prior question. Okay, so I've already done that portion of it. Okay, now keep in mind I've also done in the last question, and I'm going to go ahead and write the numbers down here, but my costs for materials was 1,800 and 80,900, and for conversion, and keep in mind I already had these, was 1,400 and 171,300. So the total costs I have to account for are 82,700 here and 172,700 here. And I already divided that, and that was already $32.43. Once again, prior question. So now what I have to do is just take this 8270, divide it by 5,525 to get my cost per equivalent unit of $14.97. Okay. So at this point now, I can go ahead and add my, I can go ahead and multiply my costs out. So I've got 1497 times 325, and I have here 125 times $32.43. And that should be so when I take the 1497 times the 325, that should give me $4,865.25. And when I multiply the 32.43 and the 125, that should give me $4,053.75. And when I add those together, I will get $8,919, which is answer A. The next question is Gasson. This is question number 10 on our form. And what we're looking for here is the number of units started in November. So I need to find the number of units that were started. I know that the work in process inventory at the beginning was 8,000 units. I know that there were 6,000 in ending work in process, so I know that 6,000 were in ending work in process. And a total of 25,000 were transferred out. So since 25,000 were transferred out, I know that that's 31 grand. So I know that 31 grand were transferred out and or an ending work in process. I know this was how much was beginning work in process. So the difference, 31 grand minus 8 grand, will tell me how many were started, which is 23 grand. So notice what this says. The amount of units I began with plus what I started equals 31 grand, and I've accounted for them by the amount that were transferred out plus the amount that were in ending work in process inventory. And finally, this last question is question number 11. Okay, this is question number 11. And whoops. Question number 11. Why it keeps wanting to do this, I don't know. This is question number 11. Put it over there. And once again, I'm going to go to the end, find out what I'm looking for. I'm looking for equivalent units for conversion. Okay. Once again, they didn't tell me how many were transferred out, but that's okay. I know that they started with 30,000 units. They started 90,000 units, so I have to account for 120,000 units. There were 20,000 units that were left, so they must have transferred out 100,000 units. I need to know the equivalent units. Of that 20,000 units, they were 60% complete. That's 12 grand. 20,000 times 0.6, so 112,000 units were equivalent units for conversion costs. That concludes my going over quiz 2. Pardon me, the chapter 4 quiz. This was part 2. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know.